Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Village Board of Washingtonville. Today, September 21st. This meeting is going to be broken up into two. One public meeting right now, and then we will close this and open up a public hearing, presentation on water and sewer restructuring, rate restructuring. Before we get started, just have a few announcements. As you know, we had a road collapse on Bull Road over a culvert. I'm still waiting on sizes of concrete culverts for this area, as well as the one at Seacourt. Seacourt was not damaged with this storm. I'm told it's at least 10 years old, and there's no way of telling the condition of the culvert on the bottom. As soon as I get those dollars amounts, I will present to the board our options. Our paving on Emerson Drive is currently on hold because of the situation on Bull Road and what Orange and Rockland had to run their temporary gas lines. We still have options open for the other two roads that we were looking to pave. North Street from Bull Road to 94, that's East Main, and Ahern from Washington to North Street. If we decide to move forward with these areas, I will ask the board at our next work session to give me permission to go out for bonding. Okay. Residents have been forwarding me information regarding damage they incurred during the storm. We're still not certain that FEMA will entertain individual assistance. We did, however, go over the threshold for the public assistance. Okay, individual assistance, damage to people's homes. I'm not really sure what a flood in Westchester County, why that's different than a flood in Orange County. But I will find out that and pass that information on to you. I want to thank the Department of Public Works for their continued hard work in repairing catch basins throughout the village and cleaning out ditch lines, so water has a place to go. It is this board's commitment to you that we will continue to push to have ditch lines, catch basins, outfalls cleaned and maintained to help in the prevention of flooding. We as a community cannot continue to hold our breath every time the storm is heading our way. As you see coming through, the village beautification committee has placed hay bales and pumpkins. Pumpkins have been donated by community residents. I thank everyone who has contributed, to this, especially the Girl Scout Troop 529. Anybody have any other announcements you want to share? No? You sure?
Oh, wait, I do. Sure. I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated in the prayer service on Friday. So thank you to all of the pastors and all the residents who came out and joined in. We had a good time.
We did.
Yeah, and Cornucopia Concepts and Heather's homemade, oh my gosh,
They were good.
the most amazing cookies you've ever had. So thank you.
And you're saying water is good for me.
Water. Yeah, flushed out all that. Yeah.
They were good. And thank you so much for your hard work.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
The mosquitoes were going after me. I think they like chubby people, and so I was getting bit up alive. And they were just smiling. New business, closing of the public hearing, resolution for short and long-term rentals. This has been on the docket for some time. We all had a chance to read it. Any comments on it? Someone want to make a motion to close the public hearing on that?
Second.
Trustee Kolar,
Yes.
Trustee Sampson,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dotto, Trustee Kolar.
Yes.
So that's closed. We have a resolution to pass.
I'll make a motion. You're gonna have to read the resolution first, or do I make a motion?
Make a motion the resolution,
Do you want one?
yeah. Okay. Resolution of the Washingtonville Village Board of Trustees adopting local law number, let's call it number 5, 2021, entitled A Local Law Regulating Rental Properties in the Village of Washingtonville. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Washingtonville wishes to adopt a local law pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 27, that rental properties, including short-term rentals within the Village of Washingtonville, and whereas proposed local law number 5 of 2021, entitled Local Law Regulating Rental Properties in the Village of Washingtonville, was introduced at a meeting of the Board of Trustees on April 19th, 2021, with local law archives and aforementioned objectives of the Board of Trustees and maybe the mouse. Whereas the Board of Trustees has prepared a short environmental assessment form in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act in connection with the proposed local law, and whereas on April 19th, 2001, the Board of Trustees declared itself lead agency and classified the action as unlisted pursuant to SEQA regulations, and whereas a public hearing was held on tonight.
No, it was the other day.
Yeah, was it on the
We're
second?
closing it tonight.
September 7th, 2021, at 7 p.m. to assist the village board's consideration of the enactment of said law and considered all the comments made at the public hearing, and whereas the local law is not the subject of zoning or land use, and as such referral to Orange County Planning Department under General Municipal Law 239-M is not required, and whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that adopting the subject local law is in the best interest of the general public health, safety, and welfare, and now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Washingtonville hereby determines that the proposed local law does not create any substantial environmental impacts, and therefore issues a negative declaration under SEQA pursuant to the attached impact assessment and over relevant documents, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Washingtonville hereby adopts said local law number 5 of 2021, entitled A Local Law Regulating Rental Properties in the Village of Washingtonville, a copy of which is attached hereto and made part of this resolution, and be it further resolved that the village clerk or her designee publish notice of adoption of the aforesaid local law, and be it further resolved that the village clerk or her designee is hereby directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book of the Village of Washingtonville, and to give due notice to the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of State of New York, and as otherwise required by law.
I'll make a motion to adopt it as read by the mayor.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call. Trustee Kolar.
Yes.
Trustee Sampson.
Yes.
Trustee Kolar.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Donato. Resolution purchase of new police car. Trustee Kolar.
If you all look at your information you have in front of you, you should have a breakdown. Chief Sicaro has spent many months working on this because of the whole COVID issue. Cars are very difficult to come by. We were finally able to buy, or locate, I should say, a car, which the sticker price is $40,000. The New York State bid price is $28,000, which is what we'll be obtaining it for. Plus with the light and safety and emergency package for an additional $11,000, which is there listed in your brochure. brochure packet for a total cost of $39,547. We were going to finance this through a 3-year lease, as we've been doing for all the other vehicles. And that payment will be $14,608 a year for the next few years. And it is budgeted, this item, by the way, it's the second of 2 cars. We're still waiting for the arrival of the first car that we authorized months ago, again, because of COVID. That's the excuse for everything now. I think, Chief, you said it was maybe coming soon, the other car?
The car's here, it's in Fishkill actually. It just unfortunately, now that we got it off the lot, which is, everybody wants it, now we have to order the equipment. So it'll still take another 6 to 10 weeks for it to be put in service just because of the supplies, the prisoner transport, the console, things like that are now taking 6 to 8 weeks. So, but that's the car we ordered in April. We haven't seen the car or the equipment yet. That's how backed up things are. So having a car on the lot and nearby is great for us.
So tonight I'm looking to pass a resolution, go ahead with this purchase of this car before we lose this car.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call, trustee Kolar,
Yes.
trustee Sampson,
Yes.
trustee Kolar,
Yes.
deputy mayor Madonna,
Yes.
Mayor Bucko, yes. Okay.
We need to sign something for Brian. We need to sign a resolution, something for Brian, so you can submit it to the
Yeah.
finance agency.
Are they going to be sending me
I'll get the information.
the paperwork?
Yeah, I haven't seen any paperwork yet, so once I finalize it through the financing department, I will share with the mayor like I have with the other vehicles and sign everything. Thank you.
And the other car's on the lot, you said?
The Dodge Charger actually was
Actually,
delivered
this car is
to,
on the lot.
This one's on the lot, but you said the other one is. Oh, we don't know what
Yeah,
it is.
and that was ordered in April.
I gave you really the update on Storm Ida. Anybody have any questions on agenda items and non-agenda items? Yes. Say your name, please, and
Sorry.
address.
Susan Wolski, 24 South Street, Washingtonville, New York, 10992. The resolution that was just passed on the short and long-term rentals, how long will it take for the DOS to update it so it becomes officially a law? And if I email you tomorrow, can you send me a copy of the verbiage for the law?
As soon as it's delivered to the Department of State.
Okay, sorry, but this affects my business, so.
I'll drive it up.
No, I want to
Oh,
have
you
a
want
copy
me
of
to?
the law so I can
Okay.
advise clients who may be looking to put rentals in their houses.
Okay. This is really the first step in rental registry.
Yeah, listen, I'm for it. I think it is a awesome thing that should have happened 25 years ago. So I just need to be able to give people proper information, and that's why I'd like a copy of it.
Sure, this is the first link, so. Anybody else? Okay, motion to close this public meeting, and we'll get ready for the public hearing at 7:15. I see Tracy from Delaware Engineering is present.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. We have 1 minute. I could start this projector.
Okay, you do have it projected?
Yeah.
Where's the best place for me to stand
Right
and
there,
talk to
good.
everybody? Okay.
What's he using? You're using the cord?
Give me a recap.
Excuse me? Yeah, so they, Joy, they created a law so that for illegal apartments, they're working on getting a registry of those too, so you have syndicate landlords, they have to register what tenants are. Well, and you can't have, you can't do Airbnb.
So basically, it's just to cut down on any illegal.
Cuts down on illegals, it helps to know who's in these houses, so if there's a problem, and you can't find the landlord, at least you know who the tenant is.
Absentee landlords.
Well, in South and Hazy Code, you figure you can't have 27 people living in a house. If the building inspector's gotta go once a year and look at it, because it's a registered rental property.
No, makes sense.
It's a health and safety issue. Income, rental income, it doesn't apply to accessory apartments, which is different. An accessory apartment is supposed to be a family member.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Washingtonville public hearing number 1 regarding water and sewer rate restructuring. Today is September 21st. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome Tracy from Delaware Engineering, our village engineers, to go over the water and sewer rate restructuring. Hopefully you picked up what she's about to go over is on the table in front here.
I'm sorry, man. It just looks a little off.
Yeah, you put it full screen. Can you do that, or you just have the PDF, huh?
I convert it to Word. Like this. Right?
Yeah, it should be. That
There you go.
helps.
That works.
Let me know how to unhide it.
When you need to get out, right? So,
Okay.
Okay. Did you have anything to start with, or?
Really, it's something that has been on everyone's minds, not only on the board, but also in the village, water rates. I believe they are one of the lowest in the area.
As far as I know.
Saying that doesn't mean we need to keep up with the other
You don't
areas.
have to keep up with the Joneses.
So, and our conversations that we had, you and I, that the way that it's been done is not really the best way to do it. So that's why.
Yeah, you can make it easier for yourself to stay on budget, and the goal is to have a rate that supports your infrastructure. It's a public benefit to have a supply of water and wastewater, and it's one of those key pieces of infrastructure, each one of them, that supports growth and development and community health. So in the long run, you want to be able to have a revenue coming from customers to support your needs for operation and improvements, and be planning for capital improvements when things happen. A lot of these, even the larger structures, have a service life of 30 years or 15 years, or some of the piping might be 70 or 100, depending on the conditions in the ground and what the material is. But knowing that is kind of like maintaining your car. You know your car is going to have a certain mileage type of a life, and you need to be planning for how you're going to replace that. In the meantime, you also have to have your oil changed and regular maintenance checkups. So that's the idea behind planning for rates for water and sewer, is maintaining this rather large underground, out of sight, out of mind infrastructure. That's definitely a benefit for the community, businesses, residences, and things like that.
So is our cost not keeping up with the cost of maintaining improvements and everything?
Yeah, you want it to be clear, so
Like,
that
I just don't want to be status quo because everybody else charges that.
Right.
If what we pay covers the cost of what we need, okay. If it doesn't, then
Right.
of course you have to raise the rates to keep up.
Right.
But
you want to have something easily managed. You've got administrative staff here that don't need to be running in circles trying to figure out what's going on. If someone comes in and asks, why am I paying this? You want to have an easy answer. Here's the budget, here's the division of how much we've produced, here's the cost per gallon. It should be simple. In the case, if you wanted to follow along here, you want to hit the
Well,
next page?
we just completed a wastewater project. Cost us $13 million. Something that.
That's for the treatment facility.
The water treatment, yes.
Because I know on Decker Drive, they just redid all the sewers and all the piping and everything, so I know they
That-
did a great job.
Right, thank you. Reed is right behind you.
You're welcome up.
But yes, and that's what we're facing in some parts of the village. You know, like
Now-
I mentioned Emerson Drive, I don't know if you were here when you know, when you mentioned it. We have the same problems on Emerson Drive, same problems on North Street, where we have this old corrugated metal drainage pipe. that
Yeah,
has
it's
to be-
from the 70s, I mean,
Yes. You know.
It's
you can put it there,
underground
but we still gotta
moisture.
maintain it.
it
So-
rots.
Okay.
So if you want to switch to the first page, I think that we're going over basically what we're talking about now. It's a benefit, there's a capacity and quality of these systems that you want to maintain, which means you need the revenue for it. We did, just to remind folks that back in 2020, we did a water and sewer infrastructure master plan, we being Delaware Engineering, that looked at some of the needs for the wells and the needs for wastewater treatment collection or, other issues, and put it all together in one big picture with some bulleted points on objectives or goals and things to plan for in the future. And one of those at that point was the rate. Let's see, I'm gonna go next page. Just so I can read this over here where I am if I need to. And this is just a summary of how the water rates are structured now. There is a water code, basically, in the village law, chapter 169 talks about that. It's interesting to note it was last amended in 1996. This is something that you might want to look at again. And making these changes, there are some things that it is advisable to change your code to update it. So water rents, even, from the beginning, there's a minimum charge, and you pay by the 1,000 gallons based on a metered use. Operation and maintenance costs this year are about, and I'm not sure if this is your total final budget, but this is what I was given to work with, is about $455,000, dollars for operation and maintenance. Operation and maintenance costs are actually those fixed costs that no matter how much water you're using, and you still have to pay your staff, you still have to buy the chemicals, you still have to pay the electric on the building and the pumps and all of those things. And the volume of water doesn't really change that cost. So that's where you get the idea of having a minimum charge. It's just to keep the lights on in the water treatment plant. No matter how much person A, B, C, or D is using, there's still a constant cost for having the treatment plant running. Beyond that, the cost per metered 1,000 gallons is kind of standard. And then the capital improvement costs relate to any of the debt you have currently, and that's about $132,000, $133,000. And that's on an annual basis. So if it's a long-term loan or something like that, that would be the sum of what needs to be paid every year. The next one is sewer.
Now, can we get any, grants or funding from the
And
government
this
for that
would have been in the
stuff?
past, so I'm not up on the history of everything that was done. I believe there have been some grants, there have been some low-interest loans, and
We did receive a grant in low-interest loans from Environmental Facility Corporation for our wastewater plant. To my knowledge, we have not received anything for our water
wells,
supply,
yeah.
our wells.
Because that's part of infrastructure, so
Well, hopefully what they're talking about down in Washington DC, we might get something. I'm still waiting to see if FEMA's going to pay for individual assistance coming from the same person. But whatever we get is beneficial to all of us.
yeah, we keep getting these 100-year floods every few years
Every 6
nowadays.
years, yeah.
And that's part of the planning. Everyone is going to be needing to plan for that going on into the future. And how do you make what you have more resilient? So that's part of the planning. We'll get to that in a little bit. Sewer is also in the village law, or in chapter 140. This one is a little interesting, and I've talked to a few people, and I believe at some point there was a confusion about the language. it says in the sewer rate that sewer, it will be based on consumption of water, which is pretty standard. That's in New York State municipal law and other things. You can base your sewer charges on how much water a building, residence, commercial facility uses, because that's the best measure of water in, sewer out, you know? Somewhere along the line, within the village law, it says 130 at that point, I believe it was.
150.
For the sewer, 130% of the water billing. And somewhere along the line, which I believe related back to consumption, somewhere along the line that became how much you're paying for your water bill, 150% of that is your sewer charge. The problem with that is you have a water treatment plant that has a budget, operation, maintenance, electric, chemicals, or wells, or distribution system, what you have here, and you have a sewer plant that has its own staff and its own maintenance and its own electrical costs and its own disposal costs and its own, so there's these two separate budgets, and it's really difficult to maintain a useful revenue source if they're tied together like that. It makes you start going like this, and you're not meeting your revenue, and it's not easy to explain to someone, well, why am I paying this and why am I paying this? So it's a definite recommendation is to separate those. Also within the sewer code is a facilities rent charge, and that's for capital improvements, and that's based on a number of units that's assigned to each property. Most of those are by property type. Residentials have 1 unit, that's your basic. For sewer debt, you want to be paying on a benefit basis. So as a resident, it's a benefit to your property to be able to flush your toilet and take care of your wastewater. Commercials have a little bit extra of a benefit depending on what type of commercial they are. If you're a restaurant, you're getting water and you're flushing sewage, but you're also making a profit out of running that business. So your benefit is a little bit more. On a benefit basis, you would have a higher number of units than a residential unit, and that's what this village law is based upon. Operation and maintenance costs here on the sewer plant are a little bit higher than the water plant, and the capital improvement costs are for some reason, right now, a little bit lower. I don't know if that means you've started paying on your low interest, on your loans, or?
Actually, October 1, we make our first payment.
Okay, so that might,
363,000.
yeah, that might change in the coming year, depending
I
on
think
how.
it goes up a while, and then before it stops.
Yeah, okay, so that's the basics right now. So you're not all that far off. There's just some things that are confusing and make it difficult for planning and for actual budgeting and for people to understand how it's being done. So the next page has a bunch of numbers I don't know if you'll be able to read on the screen. There we go. Okay, I could have sent it to you in Word, by the way. Oh, that's better. Okay, so the recommendation is similarly, the water rate is going to be based on how much per 1,000 gallons of water is consumed. The debt, there should be a separate debt service charge. Right now, there's one facility charge. It's not clear where it goes, to water or sewer or both, or how. It makes it really difficult to plan for a budget for that and say how much is that facility charge going to be. And I do know that the board had been talking about raising the facility charge by quite a bit to cover debt. But because it's not clear whether it's going just to sewer or just to water or to both, it makes it hard to budget and to put out a clear, this is your charge, this is what you're paying for. So the recommendation is to have water rent based on metered consumption of water by thousands of gallons, and have a debt charge or a facility charge that covers capital improvement and debt for the water budget. Based upon the water budget, it can be based on the same number of units that are assigned, but the math's going to come out different because the capital improvement costs for water are different from sewer. So people would be paying usage for water and debt for water based upon the needs of keeping the water system operational. Then, second off, you'll have a sewer use rate, which is still based upon per 1,000 gallons of how much water you consumed, but it's based on the operation and maintenance needs budgets of the wastewater treatment plant, not connected to the water plant. and then you'll keep the same debt service charges, same, facility charge for sewer, but based solely on the sewer capital improvement and debt budget. How I got to that is up here, which is maybe a little bit difficult to read. First column is the water, second column is the sewer. There's the operation and maintenance budget for each separately, debt separately on an annual basis, and then there's your total amount for each water and sewer. And this is using the data that I had available, so it might not be the current data. On an annual basis, when you're looking at your budget, you just want to use the most recent data you have. And that's okay. If it doesn't quite catch up, you'll catch up the next year. And it balances out. So if you had this many gallons of water treated and this many gallons of water billed, and you have that many service connections and that many units assigned, you just do a division. Here's your operation and maintenance. Per gallon of, or 1,000 gallons of water billed, how much does that mean it cost you for this many gallons billed, and it cost you this much to do that? Divide it up, divide your number into your volume, and then that's the cost per 1,000 gallons. Same thing with the debt. You've got a debt cost there. You've got a number of units assigned for your facility charge use. So the total number of units is 2,914. And you divide your debt annual charge by the number of units, and you come up with that facility charge on an annual basis. If you're billing on the quarter, then that's the number below. So in this case, the facility charge right now for water and sewer together is $15 per quarter, so that's $60 a year. Looking at the actual need for your current water debt and dividing by the number of by the number of assigned units, you get an annual charge of $45.62 on the water side, which is $11.40 per quarter. The annual cost to the average water user, that's based on looking at the data for flow data. From when we did the infrastructure plan, we had 2018 data. I really didn't want to use 2020 data because 2020 was such a disrupted year. Residential use changed, commercial use changed. So and how much as the average water use doesn't change that much year to year if you're looking at a larger number of customers and average water use. So I used the older data that I had. It was a more regular background situation. So the annual cost to the average the SFH is single family home owner, would be $298.58 for water. And the bottom brownish line is the state average for water on an annual basis is $887. Same with the sewer. You do the same math. You've got how much your sewer budget is, you've got how much was treated, you do the math, and you come up with a rate per 1,000 gallons. Within that, and this is the current minimum that's in your law, I believe, is the 7,000 gallons is a minimum use charge, and that added up pretty well